Hello students, my name is Gaurav Bansal and we are going to discuss the Indian economy in this session. The series, as you are quite evident about it, you are quite aware about it, is the mains concept mapping, where we pick up a question from the previous year's mains question paper and we try to identify which is the corresponding topic and what is the nature of the answer required for this question and what are the other possible questions from that topic and what is the requirement of that topic, temperament of that topic. Now let us look at the question we have picked up. This is a question from 2018. Okay, how are the principles followed by Niti Aayog different from those followed by the erstwhile planning commission? So we dissolved the planning commission, okay, under the new government when it was formed in 2014. One of the early decision was to create Niti Aayog and to dissolve the planning commission. So we dissolved planning commission and we created Niti Aayog. Now the change of this institution, did it change the working or was it just a change of nomenclature? Is it just that we renamed the same agency? Okay, so how are those principles different? Their working, how much it differs? So in this question, how are we going to answer? That I will discuss once we relate its topic. This is a topic of economic reforms. Okay, so we have been undertaking reforms since 1991. One of the major requirement of reforms since 1991 was that we have shifted to the market-based model. Now it is market which allocate resources. Government intervene very little. Government doesn't decide how many people get job, what is the salary that people pay. As a whole, private player together, as a whole, where government is also a small player, decide together. Government is not a determinant factor in the jobs, in the number of many other types of, let us say, engineering colleges, medical colleges. Okay, earlier government used to decide how many colleges will be there, how many schools will be there. Everything was decided by government. So planning commission was an institution of that old model where it worked on the basis of command-based economy. So planning commission worked in the command-based economy where it dominated market. Whereas market-based model that is very different from command-based economy. Market-based model doesn't like that government give it too much command, that government intervene a lot. The current model, which is increasingly becoming the mainstream after 1991, which is market-based model, was not happy, was not very compatible with the planning commission like institution. So this is one of the major aspect. The reforms that we have started, they require fundamental changes in the structure of economy also over time. As the reforms change economy, the economic conditions require further reforms. So this is the theme of this question. You have to talk about that. You have to come to it, that why we had to change it. In the introduction part you talk about it, and then in the introduction itself there have to be 2 points. Second point is, additionally, it was also creating an issue between center and state, because planning commission was allocating resources, which ideally is not a power for planning commission, which is a power of finance commission. But planning commission anytime was much more powerful than finance commission, which is a constitutional body. Whereas planning commission, which is not a constitutional body, became more powerful than the constitutional bodies. So that created problem, because planning commission was allocating funds to states also. So there was a long pending demand to address that problem also. So there were 2 reasons why we wanted to shift, but it is a big shift. Not every government is ready to take that much of risk for a big change. But this government changed and adopted Niti Aayog. How are the principles different? First of all, these 2 requirements must appear. So Niti Aayog does not allocate resources. This is the foremost principle. Doesn't allocate resources. Okay, whereas planning commission used to allocate resources. This is fundamentally different. The Niti Aayog does not intervene in market. So both the condition for which we wanted a change are satisfied now. Doesn't interfere in market or allocation. It doesn't allocate resources in any way. Okay, so that way it is more compatible for the market-based model. Then it is largely a data provider, research provider. It provides recommendations to the government. It is a think tank today. It is the most premium think tank. As a think tank, it provides very valuable data, research, and it is providing a lot of suggestions. So next set of points will be this. Compared to Planning Commission, it is producing far more data. Planning Commission was also doing it, you have to mention that. But this is doing it in a much higher quantum. Next point. It is promoting, point number 4. The Niti Aayog is promoting the competitive federalism. Whereas Planning Commission hardly promoted competitive federalism. What is competitive federalism? You encourage states to compete with each other. You provide the rankings on infrastructure readiness. You provide ranking on multidimensional poverty. Niti Aayog provide ranking on many other parameters for the states. When states come to know about that ranking, then improving the rank in various parameters can also become a major objective of the government. Okay, it can even become a poll promise. So good governance. Okay, for example. So likewise, these are the major principles on the basis of which Niti Aayog is working today. You have to explain these 4 principles after explaining the initial part. And it is a very positive change. Almost everybody now appreciates, because Planning Commission had many fundamental problems. Okay, the head of the Planning Commission, Deputy Chairman, was also given the status of Cabinet Minister, and that was also against the Constitution. So there were many problems legally also with Planning Commission. So it was a temporary system which has gone away, whereas Niti Aayog is fully compatible with Constitution. So you can bring in the polity dimension but keep it limited. Rest points we have discussed. So that way you can answer this question. Now let us talk about economic reforms. Okay, answer, actually I could have done that rough work here, but anyways, doesn't matter. Rough work is now all gone. So economic reforms. So in this topic we cover everything that has happened since independence, but prominently after 1991. Okay, so we do cover some of the reforms before the 1991 period also. Okay, for example, Green Revolution. Generally, it is part of the evolution of Indian economy, the growth of Indian economy. Okay, and we do study very briefly as a part of economic reforms also. But largely, by and large, we cover post 1991. Hardly anything before that. So I was just talking about that as an exception, that sometimes we can go in even older period when we are looking for reforms. Because in agriculture there are not too many reforms. So when we search for reforms, we have to go long back in history. But in banking, there are so many reforms, we do not have to go long back. When we try to write answer, we can find so many recent reforms that we do not even go back 40 years today. Okay, so that is why in some of the topics like labor, agriculture, where reforms are less, we do not have much to talk about. We may have to go into the older period. That is the logic. For budget, for finance, for trade, for all such things, industry, it is post 1991. Now, economic reforms had various impact on the Indian economy. As I discussed, it has made Indian economy largely market-based economy. Now, market decide how much will be the interest rate. Market decides how much will be the exchange rate. Earlier, government used to decide all of these: interest rate, exchange rate. Although government still decide what is the taxation rate, which anyways government always decide, but many parameters are today decided by the market prices. Even these were controlled earlier by the state. So likewise, many of the major parameters, investment, today they are determined by private sector. They are determined by market. That is why we call the new system, the post-reform system, as the market-based economy, because it is promoting the market-based or market-determined parameters, market-determined outputs. Government doesn't want to intervene. Government just simply wants to be a player. Okay, it is regulating all of that. That is very important, because there must be a watchdog. There must be a watchman. What does a watchman do? Watchman doesn't go and interfere in anybody's business. Watchman is here to look into if someone is doing something wrong, just like a policeman. Okay, policeman is there to stop those who are doing wrong. They have no business otherwise in the society. So just like that, government is a guard. As a guard, it is present. It should be present. But as a player also, it can be present. Government may have some companies also, but then it should behave like any regular private sector company. It should not give itself extra powers or unnecessary authorities. That is also a requirement. So generally now SBI doesn't have any extra power compared to, let us say, HDFC or ICICI. SBI also deals with the same rules that these banks deals with. SBI, because it has a very special status, it is the largest bank in India, the original public sector bank in India, so some extra duties are performed by it, but still all the rules for SBI and ICICI are same. So in that sense we have to look at things. Today, even if government is present in the system, the government will not get special treatment generally. ISRO will get special treatment because this is not a market-based system. Space research, nuclear power, these are not yet market-based, completely market-based system. We are encouraging private sector. So it is in very early stage of involvement of private sector. It is not market-based. But earlier, before 1990, everything was like that. Almost everything was like that. So this is what reforms have done. Okay. Then we have undertaken so many steps. We have freed up banking. We have involved private players, as I'm always been saying. Okay. We have given up all the control, as I've said. So you pick up any sector, all that has been done. So I've discussed the crux of the reforms. That this is what the reforms have been doing. Some of the reforms are here to address the problems of the past. Those reforms may not be promoting the markets as such. Those reforms may just be addressing the problems, certain problems. So reforms may be there specifically because there is a certain problem in the economy, problem faced by economy. Okay, so reforms generally address some of the problems that have been there because of some wrong policies in past, or because of the changing nature of the economy also. So the changing global reality also requires some of the reforms. So for example, we were not planning for a, let us say, internationalization of rupees so soon, but the Russia-Ukraine war prompted us to do it much earlier than when we would have done it. Similarly, the BHIM app and this UPI, okay, this was not supposed to be launched at such a rapid rate in 2016. The demonetization necessitated it. Otherwise, it would have been a slow thing, and it was supposed to be launched by payment banks. So that way, sometimes some reforms are necessities, but generally these are the objective of reform. So in that parameter, you must look at every development. Okay. Answer I've already discussed. Now probable question, similar type of question. Discuss how the creation of MPC has changed the nature of monetary policy in India. So earlier monetary policy was purely a prerogative of RBI governor, but now it is the role performed by MPC. So it is a very similar kind of reforms like Niti Aayog. Okay. Although we have changed a bit of the thing here, but still too much has not changed. What is another major change that has happened with the change in MPC is the inflation targeting. Earlier, inflation targeting was not our key objective. Now we are very clear. The primary role of RBI is to control the inflation. After that, it can take other responsibilities, or MPC is that. Okay, so that dimension you need to catch. And then what are the other benefits? What are the other impact of the change? Okay, and then also some of the general changes regarding the monetary policy. Then how the introduction of GST has completely changed the center-state financial relations. Okay, this also you can try yourself, not very difficult question. Before GST, the center was largely responsible for the excise duty, production tax. Sales were responsible for the sales tax. States were responsible for the sales tax. So states got their revenue from sales tax, which was called VAT in India in the later stages. Okay, and the center got the excise generally. That was the rule. Now, excise was also by both center and state, so do not get me wrong here. Primarily excise went to center, but some of the excise was there by state also. So we call it union excise duty when it is for center. Okay, otherwise we call it excise duty. That is how we define between the two. After GST, everything is integrated now. Okay, so states do not have any separate taxation power. Everything is part of, every indirect tax is part of GST. The major tax that states have complete control now is the stamp duty. Okay, stamp duty for car registration, stamp duty for property registration. These are the biggest taxes that state is today collecting. Okay, and both excise sales has been merged into GST. So today center state, their indirect tax revenue is combined and it is divided between them. Okay, as CGST and SGST. IGST is collected by center but then later on divided. Okay, it gives it to the state later on, half of it. So likewise, GST has changed the relationship completely. And today states have lost some of their independence, because earlier regarding their sales tax, they could set a different rate, they could opt for different tax rates, they could tweak a bit. But today that possibility is gone, because across India the tax rate is going to be same, which is decided by GST Council. Over there, by the way, states have 2/3 of the share. Okay, voting power. Center has 1/3 of the voting power. But generally the government which is there at center also has state governments, so combined vote it is able to get above 50%. But anyways, that is not the problem. GST Council generally is working well. Okay, there was a problem in between because GST was not giving us enough revenue, so center was not able to pay the state their share. So that was a brief problem in between, but otherwise this system has been working. Okay, so this is the broader change from GST into center-state relationship. Again, I'm not discussing their answers, I'm just giving you some of the hints how these reforms are similar to the question that was there. So any of such question can be asked. Okay, and we will discuss more topics in future. Okay, but I hope this economic reform idea is clear to you. If you have more question, if you have doubt, please provide it in the comment. I will continue to check the video regularly and I will answer those comments. Thank you.